samples from the body, taken with permission from Mallory's family. The next step in their investigation, make a careful analysis of the evidence. DNA sequencing proves that the body is indeed George Mallory's. Bloodstains smudged on his clothing are typed as his, and not those of colleague Andrew Irving. But when did George Mallory die? His oxygen mask is missing, and the clip that held it in place is tucked into his pocket, suggesting that Mallory was alive to put it there after his oxygen supply ran out. Another significant clue, Mallory's climbing goggles are tucked neatly into his pocket. The team deduces that Mallory took them off so he could see more clearly in the waning light of late afternoon. In addition, Mallory's final resting place is over 1,000 feet lower on the mountain than where he was last seen. Team members speculate that Mallory fell while descending from his summit attempt late in the day. Unable to walk because of his fractured leg, he died probably from his head wound. But did he reach the summit? The evidence is inconclusive. For their discoveries, Simonson and his team are hailed as mountaineering heroes. But they're not satisfied with that. They want to find definitive proof, one way or another.
It would have been very easy to have just rested on our laurels and not gone back. I felt, however, and the team members agreed with me, that we had some unfinished business.
After 2 years of planning, Eric's investigation team heads back to the Himalayas to finish what they started. Their new mission: 1. Search the upper slopes of the North Face for Andrew Irving's body and the missing camera. 2. Get to the summit and look for the flag and photo Mallory planned to leave there. Finding these at the top could prove that Mallory and Irving summited Mount Everest first. But the summit is a world of danger all its own. Those who survive the climb are sometimes so brutalized, they barely remember the summit experience. No one has ever made a thorough investigation of all the artifacts left behind by wave after wave of climbers. Unhooking from the ropes to hunt for clues on these steep slopes invites disaster, but the Mallory-Irving investigation team is ready to take that risk. The core team is joined by experienced Sherpas and accomplished climbers John Race and Brent Okita.
Rubble, and then Brent grabbed this one a few minutes later.
And a new climber investigator completes the forensic squad, Jason Tangway, an expert mountaineer but also a biology teacher who's come to work in the highest lab on Earth. Jason's another team member with a reverence for the skills of Mallory and Irving.
They were true adventurers back then. They were breaking new ground, and I think they were more daring than people these days.
Before the first search ascent, expedition leader Eric Simonson addresses his troops.
I told everybody to take a good, long, hard look at everyone and realize that there's a good chance that some of us might not be coming home. The odds are that you will, over the course of time, leave some of your friends on the mountain.
Whoa, thank you.
The Mallory investigation begins its second assault on Everest. Using the telescope and radio, Eric keeps track of his team from base camp. The investigative team leaves the safety of fixed ropes to search the North Face, spreading out from Mallory's gravesite at 26,760 feet. Once again, they're working in the death zone.
Search days were terrific. Some of the most spectacular days I've had climbing. Unclip from the fixed lines and you know, wander out onto the north face and spend, you know, days out there.
Good luck so far?
Good.
Combing the north face as if it were a crime scene, the team painstakingly collects artifacts from expeditions past.
Those other 75 bottles right there.
It's really an incredible timeline to come off the mountain and bring all these bits and pieces of crampons and camps and oxygen bottles, the early British stuff, but not a whole lot, really. You know, we were, I think, amazed to not find more.
An initial discovery is one of Mallory and Irving's long-lost camps from 1924. They find a shredded tent, tent poles, and other fragments, but they don't have the luck they did on their earlier expedition. They fail to find any evidence that definitively solves the mystery. And every moment they spend in the death zone threatens their chances for a summit success.
When you pop up over 25,000 feet, the clock is ticking. We're going against the grain a little bit by spending multiple days up there looking and going out on difficult terrain every day. Since there's so many stresses on your body, you're getting physically weaker the longer one of these expeditions goes on.
Eric, the expedition's leader, believes that a search of the summit may be more profitable, but it will also be far more dangerous. He has to decide. Do they keep searching the slopes, or do they move on to investigate the summit, looming another 2,000 feet above? With scientific precision, Eric considers his options, plots a strategy, then gives the order. The climbing team of Dave, Tap, and Jason will go all the way to Mt.Everest summit and conduct the highest altitude forensic analysis in history. What none of them can know is that the mountain is making other plans. Simonson's team of investigators finds no definitive evidence in the lower reaches of Mount Everest's treacherous death zone. They make a bold but dangerous decision to go all the way to the mountaintop, 29,035 feet.
Our goal on summit day was to look for additional clues high on the summit ridge.
But finding those clues, a photo and a flag Mallory may have left at the summit, and a camera that may contain proof of a Mallory-Irving success, is only one reason the team is eager to get to the top. For Tap Richards and Jason Tangay, it means the fulfillment of every high-altitude climber's ultimate dream, their first Everest summit.
And we were psyched to go at it.
Dave Hahn understands his younger colleague's desire. He's been to the summit before.
I had been to the top a few times. I was a little bit older than all of them, but I wanted the top very badly.
They'll join crowds of other climbers going for the summit, most not as well prepared as the investigators. The team's weeks of searching the death zone have given them an advantage.
It was clear that all our acclimatization had made a difference. All the searching we'd done made us a lot stronger for this effort.
The day before their summit attempt, Dave, Tap, and Jason arrive at Camp 6 with fellow team member Andy Pollitz.
Andy Pollitz had already decided that he wasn't going to go for the summit. He wanted one more chance, one more day to do some searching. So it meant myself and Tap and Jason, plus 2 Sherpas.
As evening falls, Eric and expedition historian Jochen Hemleb are making a telescopic reconnaissance from base camp. Suddenly, they spot climbers in trouble.
Jochen and I were looking through the telescope, and we saw climbers high on the mountain, still coming down from the 3rd step, just as the last rays of the sun were being extinguished. Yokin and I looked at each other and said, ain't no way these guys are getting down. You know, we are watching an accident looking for a place. They were going to be spending a night out. And I knew very clearly what lay in store for them.
At Camp 6, Dave Hahn is just turning in when an unexpected visitor comes to his tent.
We knew that they'd gone for the summit that day, but this guide told us that they'd had to abandon one of their clients. It was kind of a shock.
Dave and the other team members know the endangered climber. Jaime Vinales is an enthusiastic, if less than fit mountaineer.
Jaime, cheerful, inoffensive guy, not really cut like a mountain climber, carrying a few extra pounds.
Earlier in the day, Jaime became the first Guatemalan to summit Mount Everest. But on his descent, Jaime ran out of oxygen. When he collapsed, his guide refused to leave him, a courageous but potentially suicidal move. These two, client and guide, are the climbers Eric spotted on the third step. Now they're stranded, desperately hoping to survive overnight on Everest.
A night out at 28,750 feet on Everest is brutal.
Especially when oxygen supplies give out and cerebral edema sets in. In cerebral edema, the brain swells, producing so much pressure that one by one, its control centers begin to shut down, causing confusion, stupor, coma, and finally death. Dave's visitor gives the team a warning. High on the third step, just beneath the summit, they may have to contend with tragedy.
They were conceding that this climber would be dead when we got to him, or when anybody got to him, and that we should be aware of this and be ready to deal with it.
Determined to avoid getting caught too late on the mountain themselves, the investigative team will head out just after midnight. If things go according to plan, they'll summit by mid-morning, conduct their search, and have plenty of time to return before night falls. But Everest doesn't always work according to plan. Right on schedule at 12:30 in the morning, Dave Hahn, Jason Tangway, and Tap Richards, along with Sherpas Fu Nuru and Fu Dorji, set out for the summit.
Oh, it was a great morning. We woke up, we were fired up. We had perfect weather, and we had an early start. We moved really well. Everything was clicking, and we all felt good. And it seemed like if there was a day to go to the top, this was going to be it.
At the top may lie the evidence they need to prove once and for all that Mallory and Irving summited. But the final approach to Mount Everest summit is a series of 3 tough challenges. The first, second, and third steps. Along the way, the team must also contend with the ridged formation known as the Yellow Band and pass around the landmark, Mushroom Rock. Technically difficult, the steps require climbing and rappelling, maneuvers that become even more chancy at altitude. Somewhere here, George Mallory and Andrew Irving died. To solve the mystery, the investigators must follow without falling victim to the same fate. Today, it all seems possible.
The morning was literally a perfect day. There was absolutely no question that they were going to tag the summit that morning.
The expedition practically flies up the treacherous first step.